Hello everyone, Deborah here from Deborah on the Go. Welcome to my Q&A video about the Pacific Crest Trail. So when I put out my announcement video, I posted it everywhere. And I asked people to ask me questions, anything that they wanted to know about me, about the Pacific Crest Trail, about why I'm doing this, how I'm going to handle things. I wanted to be able to answer all the burning questions. So I've written them all down, as well as ones that I have gotten over the last 3 years when I've talked about wanting to do this trail. So in no particular order, I'm just going to jump on into the questions and give you my answers. Here we go. When does one normally start the Pacific Crest Trail? So the Pacific Crest Trail has an association, and they put out 50 permits a day starting March 1st to May 31st. You can hike this trail without this permit. However, you do have a lot of more logistical planning to get around in terms of getting all of the individual permits that you would need otherwise. So most people try and get a PCTA permit, which is what I did. So when do people mostly start? They start generally in that time frame, March 1st to May 31st. However, I would say that the majority of people try and get a mid-March to beginning of April time slot. So I'm going to be starting in the beginning days of April. I'm not releasing my actual date to the wide general public just for safety reasons and privacy, but I will be embarking on this journey the beginning days of April. What will be my greatest challenge starting the trail? That's a really great question. I think a lot of people's biggest challenge is just learning how to backpack. A lot of people go on this trail that have never backpacked before. I don't have that problem. I know how to backpack, but I do think one of my personal challenges is going to be learning how to resupply. So I am used to having to carry 5 to 10 days worth of food. I am used to being in the backcountry away from civilization for 5 to 10 days at a time. On the trail, I will be hitting towns every other day, every 2 to 4, 5 days at the most. So my instinct is to carry 5 to 10 days of food. Why would I stop in town at every single town if I don't have to? The flip side of that is the weight factor. It is going to be really hot in the desert, and so I need to carry lots of water, which means I can't be carrying a lot of food because I need that space and that weight savings for the water. So I am going to have to go into town every other day and pick up more food for just a few days at a time. And I know it doesn't sound like that would be a struggle, but when you know what you can carry, it's a trick of the mind, right? Like I need to reset my mind into understanding that carrying only 2 to 3 days of food is a good thing. So I think that will be my biggest struggle starting off. What was the thing or the moment that made me want to hike the Pacific Crest Trail? I think it was the ending of my very first backpacking trip. It was an 8-day trip in the middle of nowhere, and I absolutely loved it. And I was not ready for it to be over. And I struggled a little bit being back in society. And it just really hit me that, wow, like I thoroughly loved being out there, being away from people, being away from technology, away from work, away from life. I loved it. And so that sparked this idea of maybe I could do this long term. Maybe I could do a long distance through hike. What sparked the PCT specifically, most people, it's the movie Wild. And ironically enough, I have watched Wild. I watched it many years before I even started backpacking. And at the time it was like, oh yeah, that would be kind of cool, but it never ignited anything in me. So it wasn't what inspired me to do the Pacific Crest Trail. What inspired me to do it was when I started researching the AT, the Appalachian Trail, and realized that it wouldn't be much different than what I do at home already. That's when I shifted gears to the Pacific Crest Trail and the wide open vistas and the different terrain, and it's going to be very different from what I'm used to, and that excites me. Am I going alone, or will I be alone? Okay, so I'm not supposed to be going alone. I do have a friend from here at home that has a permit date for the same day I do. We got our permits together and we have been planning this trip together for years. So I am supposed to be starting with her. We have had conversations about how we would love to hike the entire trail together, but also understanding that that may not be possible. So we're just going to take it day by day, but yes, I will be supposed to be starting with her, and I'm super excited about that. Otherwise, will I be alone? No. So even if I was not going there with a hiking partner, I still would not be alone. There are 50 people per day that start the trail, and even if I don't specifically start with somebody, I won't be alone. I may hike alone during the day, but there will be people ahead of me and behind me. There will be people at camp, at water holes, break spots. So no, I wouldn't be alone. I would be surrounded by people anyway. How many shoes will I bring or go through? So I plan on bringing one pair of shoes, like my hiking shoes, plus a pair of camp shoes. And I have not decided if my camp shoes are going to be flip-flops, sandals, or Crocs yet. I just can't make up my mind on what I want to bring for a camp/town shoe. But that will be all that I'm bringing with me in terms of shoes. Now, how many shoes will I go through on the trail? I'm anticipating I'm probably going through about 5 pairs of shoes. Typically, a pair of trail shoes lasts roughly 500 miles. So that's the gauge I'm going to use. The trail is 2,653 miles. So that's an average of every 500 to 600 miles that I'll be switching out my shoes. But I will be getting my replacement shoes either in towns that I'm in at Outfitters, or I will order them and get them sent to me, but I will not be taking them with me along the trail. Are there opportunities to break from the trail? Yes. And then the second part of this question is, do I pass through communities to resupply? Yes. So especially in the desert section, there are towns or resorts or places with little convenience stores every 2 to 3 days along the way. They get a little more spaced out in the Sierra section, and then in Oregon and Washington they are a little more spaced out again as well. But in general, yes, every 2 to 5 days there should be a town or place that I can get off trail, go in, get some more food, get a shower, do laundry, potentially stay in a hotel or an Airbnb. So I will not be on the trail and the whole entire time for 5 to 6 months. I will be getting off periodically to rest. A lot of people get off even for a week at a time at some points to really get away and rest and recharge. I don't know if I'll be doing that, just because I don't have anyone in the States to help me with that. But I definitely anticipate on taking a day off about once a week. So we'll see how that goes. Did the movie Wild make me doubt my goal or be fearful, or did it do the opposite? I don't think the movie Wild made me doubt this at all or make me fearful at all. If anything, it made me more confident. just because I know how to backpack and she didn't, and she made a lot of mistakes, like a lot of mistakes, that I know that I've already done and worked out. And so no, the movie hasn't made me doubt myself or doubt what I'm doing or make me fearful. YouTube videos have made me more fearful than the movie Wild did. I've seen what some of the Sierra sections can look like when there's lots of snow. I've seen, you know, the actual encounters of rattlesnakes and things. So I've watched one YouTuber who was stalked by a mountain lion. So I think there's a difference between a movie and real people on their real YouTube channels. And so I have found the YouTube channels to be a little more, oh, that looks scary. But no, I'm not like fearful to the point where I don't want to do it. I'm fearful just being aware of the certain spots along the trail that could pose a potential problem versus others, if that makes sense. Is there one summit that I'm looking forward to the most? Yes and no. So most of the summits along the PCT are not true summits. They are, you end up going over a pass, which is generally not at the top of a mountain that you're climbing. It is a saddle between two peaks, but there are a few that stand out. As for actual peaks, I am looking forward to hiking up San Jacinto Peak. That's near Idlewild, California. I'm looking forward to attempting Mount Whitney, which is the highest mountain in the contiguous US, which means the mainland. There is a higher one in Alaska, but of the mainland mountains, Mount Whitney is the highest. So that I am looking forward to hiking up. But I don't have one that I'm necessarily looking forward to the most. I have a few that I'm looking forward to the least. I'm not too thrilled about crossing the snowshoot on Forester Pass, and I'm not too thrilled about the idea of climbing up Mather Pass. I've heard that one can be particularly scary or sketchy if there's a lot of snow. So yeah, that's my answer. Will I be vlogging my journey? Yes. So I am planning on doing a daily vlog. I'll be taking daily video. I'm hoping to put out a vlog per day. Now that will be behind on trail. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to physically put them out every day, but I do want to end up with one video for every day that I'm out there. If I find that is too cumbersome to accomplish on trail, or, you know, for whatever reason, I may combine 2 to 3 days together. But my ultimate goal, as I sit here, my plan is to do one video per day. How long do you think it will take to hike the Pacific Crest Trail? So the average hiker is said to take 5 to 6 months. Some people do it in 4, some have done it in less than 4, but average seems to be between 5 and 6 months. So as a Canadian, I have 6 months that I'm allowed to be in the US. So I am planning on trying to use that 6 months. However, if I find that I'm getting too far behind in time, because if you're too late in the year when you hit Washington, you can run into snowstorms and potentially not be able to finish the trail because of those storms. So I have to be cognizant of that. I also have to be cognizant of wildfire season, which seems to be breaking out in August-ish. So I don't want to rush through the trail, and I'm also quite competitive with myself. So I can totally see myself possibly getting fast and out of hand, maybe, to the point where maybe I am rushing things because I'm just competitive that way. So I am going to do my best to try and just soak it all in and take my time. So yeah, I am planning on utilizing that 5 to 6 month window. What made me choose the PCT? So I think I've sort of already answered this, and I did answer it in my introduction video, but what made me decide to do the PCT specifically was I love the idea of continually changing the terrain that I'm going to be walking through. So this trail, you start off in the desert in Southern California. The desert section goes for 700 miles, and then you enter the Sierra Nevada, which is the beautiful high mountain ranges. After that, you end up in the northern mountains of Northern California, and then in the volcanic areas of Oregon, and then in the beautiful Cascades of Washington. So there's a lot of different areas you're going through, a lot of different terrain changes. But the one thing that I love the most is that the majority of the trail is wide open spaces. There's not a ton of green tunnel. Green tunnel is when you're just walking through forest, walking through forest for, you know, a 2-minute view. That doesn't interest me. I can do that at home. So the idea of the Pacific Crest Trail being up on those mountain ridges and just seeing the expansive views, I'm just super excited about. What do you think will be your biggest struggle? I have a few things that I think will be big struggles for me. I'm concerned about the heat in the desert, and I can get heat stroke very easily. So I am going to have to be very careful of my sun exposure and how much water I carry and drink. So I think that will be an adjustment. As for a true struggle, so I have hip dysplasia, which means that my hips don't necessarily sit in the joint quite properly. And the more I hike, the more it's becoming an issue. So I guess this kind of relates to why I want to hike a thru hike, is because I am aware that at some point my hips are not going to let me hike anymore, and I want to do and see as much as I possibly can before that happens. But a real struggle on trail will be keeping my hips healthy, keeping the muscles from seizing up, keeping the joint from popping out of place and staying there. Yeah, I think that's going to be, I know what I need to do to keep it healthy, but I think it is going to be a struggle I'm going to face the entire way. What will I do if I get injured? So my plan for injury is injury prevention as much as possible. So like I just said, I have hip dysplasia, and I know that if something is going to take me off trail, it will likely be my hip. So I have been working really hard with my chiropractor and my massage therapists to get my hip in as good a shape as I possibly can. Through physio and massage therapy, I've learned a lot about what I need to do for those particular muscles to keep them loose and happy, and how to encourage my hip to pop back into place on trail on its own should it decide to shift. So injury prevention is my best possible key to success in that regard. As for other kind of injury, like tripping and falling, twisting an ankle, falling off a mountain, I mean, it really depends on the degree. So minor injuries, I'm gonna have a small basic first aid kit with me, you know, to help with like blisters and things like that. Any kind of twisting of ankles, I suppose, depending on how bad it is, walk it off. If need be, I'd have to go into town, maybe take a couple of days off to rest the injury, even possibly go get it checked out, make sure there's nothing wrong. It really depends on what it is. For major serious injuries, though, that I would not be able to get myself off the trail, I have my Garmin InReach, which has an SOS button. So if I find myself in a position that I'm not able to get myself off trail on my own, I just have to hit that button and help will come to me. How will I stay safe on trail? And so this question I asked for a little clarification, if they were asking how am I going to stay safe from people or how am I going to stay safe from wildlife? And the reply was, well, both. So let's start with people. How am I going to stay safe from people? I'll have a knife with me. Not that I intend on using it, but I don't feel necessarily like people are going to be a problem. Like, everybody out on the trail is there for the same reason, and it really becomes a community. And I think I will feel no less safe out there than I would at home. There is the potential for somebody bad that has bad intentions to be there, but that happens everywhere. I could go to work and have something happen. I can go to the mall and have something happen. So as far as the potential of something bad happening due to another human on the trail, well, yeah, that possibility is everywhere. So I don't live my life dictated by fear. So it's not even really something that I concern myself with. And if it happens, it happens, and I will react in the moment. I think the most potential situation for being unsafe is having to hitchhike into town. From other thru hiker experiences, that seems to be the most common area where they feel unsafe, is hitching into town. So for that, my plan is never to take a hitch alone. I'll always ensure that I have somebody with me in the vehicle. If I can, I would take a picture of their license plate, have my Garmin and my wallet and my passport and my knife on my body. But yeah, those are just some small preventative measures that I can take to protect myself, but ultimately I have to use my gut instinct as to whether these people are have good intentions or not. Wildlife, to protect myself from wildlife. So I live in bear country. I know how I've had my bear awareness training. I know how to anticipate bear behavior. I'm not all that concerned about bears. It's not something I'm very concerned about at home anyway. I always carry my bear spray at home. I'm yet to determine whether I'm going to carry it on the Pacific Crest Trail or not. I know there are some national parks along the way that you're not allowed to carry bear spray in. So that may be something that I end up not doing, but overall, not too concerned about bears. Mountain lions are more of a concern for me, but again, I'm not too worried about them. What I am concerned about in terms of wildlife are rattlesnakes. And that is because I have no snake experience. Up here in northern Alberta, we only have garter snakes, and they're harmless and you hardly ever see them. So I don't have snake experience. I know the things I'm supposed to do. I know I'm supposed to tap rocks and swish bushes and things like that. Like, don't sit down on a rock until you tap it. Don't step over a rock until you tap and look. And I know I'm supposed to do those things, I'm concerned I'm going to forget to do those things because snake awareness is not ingrained into me the way that like bear awareness is. I know how to look for bear sign. I know I subconsciously do it. I don't know if I'm going to subconsciously watch out for snakes. So I've been asking a lot of questions. I've been trying to do research. I'm going to do more rattlesnake research before I go so that I'm informed, because I do believe that information is power. But yeah, I think I'm going to be that Canadian that gets bit in the butt because I forgot to tap a rock. How do I plan to keep motivated and keep going? I think this is a very good question. I had never hiked solo before this past summer, and that was something I always wondered, was if I was hiking alone, would I have the motivation to keep going? And I discovered this summer that yes, I do, and I actually quite enjoy hiking alone. But aside from that factor, I don't really know if being motivated is going to be a factor. I enjoy being out there so much that, maybe I'll get caught off guard with this, but I don't anticipate it needing to be motivated to be a problem. I love backpacking. I love being out there. I'm never ready for my trip to be done. After 5 days, and all my friends are ready to go home and see their families and sleep in beds and have showers, and I'm like, let's just do it again. So I have a different mindset than I think a lot of people. So yeah, I don't necessarily anticipate needing to keep myself motivated. However, I am gonna have music. I don't plan on listening to music a lot, but I am gonna have it available should I need a little pick-me-up. I am hoping to have my friends send me a challenge every week. So at the beginning of every week, they will message me with, this week's challenge is whatever. I'm very challenge and competition driven. So I think that as long as I have something to continually drive me, that will definitely help keep me going and give me the motivation. My biggest motivation to keep going, and my whole concept of doing the Pacific Crest Trail, is to hike home. So starting at the Mexico border and going north, I'm going to be hiking home the whole time. So that'll be a big driver. I don't want to have to get picked up, and I don't want to have to fly home. I want to walk home. So that's going to be a really big motivating factor as well. What is driving me to do this? Craziness? Insanity? No. Love. It's a love for the trail. I have a passion for hiking and backpacking, and it's hard to explain. I started off hiking. It was just something I needed to do to help heal. That turned into a hobby, that then turned into a passion and a purpose. I truly believe that my purpose in life is to bring people to the trail, whether that's to actually introduce them to hiking and helping them get ready to climb their first mountain, or whether that's to share my videos and my experiences out in the backcountry and bring the trail to people that way. That is my purpose in life and my absolute passion. And I feel a real, true calling to do the Pacific Crest Trail. I don't believe that it is just something that I came up with. I think that there is an element of being called to the trail. So that's why I'm doing it. What got me started on this goal? How did I hear about the trail and then decide I want to do it? Okay, so what got me started on this goal again was the transition of hiking into backpacking, and then the natural transition seemed to be through hiking. My passion for hiking, I can't get enough. I love it. And also the knowledge that, with my hip dysplasia, it's got a time limit on it. At some point in my life, I'm not going to be able to do this anymore, and that really drives me to do all these things. And I'm, like I said before too, I'm very competitive, I'm very goal oriented. So once I complete one crazy idea, I'm off onto the next, and this is just one of those things. How did I hear about the trail and then decide I want to do it? So I think I, like many others, I heard about the Pacific Crest Trail from the movie Wild, but the movie did not inspire me to want to hike the trail. It was just, it was friends talking about doing the Appalachian Trail. And I started thinking, well, maybe I could do the Appalachian Trail too. And then looking into the Appalachian Trail and really realizing that it just didn't appeal to me. So I thought, well, what else could I do that would appeal more? And that's when I shifted back to the Pacific Crest Trail. And that's where it all started. What am I going to do to prepare for dealing with high altitude sickness? What are the symptoms and how will I recover if I feel sick? What am I going to do to prepare for high altitude sickness? Nothing. There's really nothing I can do to prepare for it other than to continue to do what I'm doing. I live 2 hours from the mountains in Grand Cache. They're not the highest of the Rocky Mountains by any means, but I think the only real way you can train for altitude is to be in altitude, and if it's not available to you, there's really little you can do. So I do think that with my experience already and going through the desert and working my way up to higher elevations, that hopefully I will be okay. I've hiked around the 9,000 foot mark before and I felt fine. So the trail actually, a lot of it stays in the Sierra. It stays through that 10 to 12,000 feet. The highest point is Mount Whitney, which is 14,500. So there's only a couple of spots where you're actually over 13,000 feet. So I don't know. I'm gonna hope for the best and hope that I don't get affected by it. Common symptoms are headaches, toothaches, not feeling well, feeling nauseated, not being able to breathe. Some people take altitude sickness pills if they already know they get altitude sickness. I'm not aware that I do, but again, I don't think I've been higher than 9,000, so I really don't know. And what am I going to do to feel better if it hits me? Well, I'll get to lower elevation. If I have to go around the Sierras because of that, then I have to, but I will worry about that when I get there. Will I be bringing Renly, my dog, with me? Sadly, no. I would really love to, but the Pacific Crest Trail, there are a lot of areas where dogs cannot be on. They're not allowed to be on. Renly, having as little rattlesnake or snake experience as I do, I would not want to subject him to the desert and possibly injury from rattlesnakes because he doesn't know any better. The heat of the desert wouldn't be good for him. There's just so many things with taking him. Not being from the US, I don't have anyone to help me with him. The areas where he's not allowed to be in, I would have to work at the logistics myself of boarding him and then getting him there, getting him back on trail. It would be a nightmare. And then injury. If he got injured, that would end my hike because I would have to take him home. And I think this trail is a big enough journey for myself. I don't want to worry about him, and I don't want to potentially put him in a spot where he's going to get injured. It's one thing for me to decide that I want to hike 4,000 kilometers. It's another thing for me to essentially force him into it. He can't give me consent to say, yeah, I want to do that with you. And I don't think it's fair of me to, as much as I want him there, it's not fair of me to put him through that. And not only that, but just from my own experiences of backpacking with him, while I enjoy having him there, there is another element of stress that I don't experience when he's not there. I am constantly having to be watchful and concerned, and there's a lot of river crossings and stuff in the Sierra that, like, he's terrified of water. It wouldn't be good, and I don't need the extra stress. It's going to be, I think, a big enough challenge getting myself through this experience, let alone having to constantly be worried about him and getting him through it as well. What part of the journey am I most excited about? All of it. Yeah, I'm excited for each section in and of itself for its own reasons, but I think if I have to pick a section that I am the most excited about, I would say it's Washington and like the Goat Rocks area, and maybe a little bit north of that. It just looks absolutely stunning, and I'm very much looking forward to doing that. But I'm really excited just for the whole entire experience in general, and I truly hope that my body will allow me to hike the whole thing. I am going to attempt to hike the whole thing, and my definite intention is to go into it with a mindset that the only thing that will take me off trail is injury. I'm going to do this thing other than that. So yeah, I'm excited for all of it, really. What part am I dreading the most? I am dreading potential hip issues. I am dreading potential sunstroke, but more than anything, I think I'm dreading the snowshoot in Forester Pass and climbing up Mather Pass. I am really hoping, I'm sorry to say this, but I am really hoping for a low snow year. I know California needs the snow, but selfishly, I'm really hoping for a low snow year, because the less snow there is, the less sketchy those two places are going to be. So yeah, the things I am dreading the most are probably Forester Pass snowshoot and climbing up Mather Pass. What luxury item am I taking with me? I have a little tiny thermometer that I'm going to take with me. That's a luxury item. It's small, it's light. I feel like I deserve to take it. Right now I'm intending on taking a sleeping bag liner, and I call it a luxury because I don't use it as a liner for myself. But typically people use sleeping bag liners to sleep inside their sleeping bag for added warmth, but I use it to put my sleeping pad inside of, because I cannot stand the sound that a sleeping pad makes rubbing against the bottom of a tent floor. It's like nails on a chalkboard to me. I cannot stand that noise. And I found that using a sleeping bag liner as like a sheet over my sleeping pad really works. So right now I would say that's probably my luxury item. I have another luxury item. It is a light down blanket that I typically bring on a backpacking trip, because in the Rockies it gets pretty cold at night. But it has also kind of become a security blanket, and I'm struggling with that one, because I want to bring it because it is a security thing now, but I also want to be able to leave it at home and do this without it. So that luxury item, I'm still on the fence about. When I start, what am I leaving behind emotionally, and what am I hoping to walk towards? I don't know that I'll be leaving a lot behind emotionally, because I've really worked on myself in the last 10 years. I think, as I said in my introduction video, doing this hike is like a celebration for me. This marks 10 years of really discovering myself and living authentically and becoming a better person and working through all my issues. So I don't know that I'm like leaving behind much emotionally, because I've worked through a lot of all that stuff, and so this is just a celebration of all of that. I will say that leaving behind Renly is going to be really hard. I will be an emotional wreck in that regard, because it's going to be a long time without him. And yeah, so in that sense, leaving behind my friends and my family, that's going to be difficult. Leaving behind my hiking family, that's going to be really hard, and that hurts my heart. So yeah, I think those are some things that maybe I will struggle with, or that I'm leaving behind. What am I hoping to walk towards? Well, I'm walking home. So I'm going to walk towards home. But I think the biggest thing for me is, like, because this is a celebration of where I've been and what I've been through and living authentically and just celebrating my life that I've created for myself, there is an element of the more I enjoy my outdoor life and the more I immerse myself in this passion, the less happy I am in an office sitting behind a desk. So I'm really hoping that this sabbatical from work and life really opens some doors, or opens my eyes to different possibilities for a career when I return. I really don't want to return to being an office admin and sitting behind a desk. That kind of life is slowly killing me. So I really am hoping to find something that is more in line with hiking and being outdoors and just that part of my life. So yeah, I'm hoping that the trail will reveal some options and open some doors for me in that regard. How long have I been planning and training for this? So I have been planning and training for this since 2019. I have been actively saving money. I've been actively trying to reduce my debt. I've actively been training. Like, every hike I go on, I call it training for the Pacific Crest Trail. Every backpacking trip I've been on, when things don't go the way they're supposed to, I chalk it up to PCT training. Like, I have been putting myself in situations that I'm not comfortable with, to help myself grow and get more comfortable with being uncomfortable on trail. Yeah, like, I have been living, eating, breathing the PCT since 2019. So yeah, I've been doing a lot to train and plan. What kind of sacrifices have I made and will I make to do this? So I've already made some sacrifices. I have essentially sacrificed my career. I was working for a company when I decided I wanted to do this. I told them right away. I gave them that 3 years notice, and they wholeheartedly backed me up and promised me a leave of absence when the time came and that it wouldn't be a problem. That company then got purchased by another company that was not so supportive, and instead of allowing me a leave of absence, they decided to let me go. So I have essentially sacrificed my career for this dream, and that's fine because this dream is going to be more fulfilling than any career could be. And it's given me an opportunity to make a little extra money alongside while I spend these few months in between getting ready to actually go on this trip. I have sacrificed my home. As time got closer, I decided I was going to try and sell my home so that I would have less to worry about while I was on trail. But that didn't pan out. It didn't sell in the time frame that I kind of needed it to. So I ended up renting it out. So far, they've been amazing tenants, and I'm truly hoping that that continues while I'm away so that I don't have to worry about anything. So yeah, I moved out of my home. I have renters living in it now, and I am currently renting a room from my cousin in her home. She was gracious enough to open her doors to me and Renly, and so that is where I am currently staying. And shortly before I embark on this journey, I will transition into my mother's home for maybe the month of March, and just to have a little more space to really get my gear laid out and figure out logistics and resupply planning and that kind of thing. In having to get out of my own home, I've sacrificed my fur babies. Renly is currently with me, but I had to find a new home for my cats. So thankfully my brother agreed to take them on. So he currently has my 3 cats. God bless him. Although I have been told that the day I return, I get them back. So I'm not sure how that's going to work because I technically won't have a home when I get back. But we'll see. That's the other thing. I don't have a home or a job to return to when I get back. But you know what? That's an October problem, so I'll worry about it then. Something else I'm going to be sacrificing to do this is I will be sacrificing being with Renly. That's going to be really difficult to say goodbye to him and leave him behind. I know he will be in really good hands, but yeah, that is the I think the only thing about this journey that makes me a little bit sad is knowing that I have to leave him behind for a few months. So yeah, but that I think is the end of my list. If this Q&A inspired any more questions out of you, please leave them in the comments. I would be more than happy to do another one if I get more questions that weren't already answered. But for now, that is everything. Yeah, if you enjoyed this, if you want to follow along on my journey, please subscribe to my channel. If you don't know how to do that and you're my friend or family, I'm more than happy to walk you through it. But yeah, hit that subscribe button, select all notifications so that when I have another video, it automatically pops up and tells you about it. I am going to be doing a gear video. It's probably going to be a couple more months before I do that, but I would definitely get that out before I hit the trail. And yeah, so until then, I hope that this was informative. I hope that you enjoyed these questions, and I hope you enjoyed my answers. And again, if you have more, let me know. Until then, bye.